already gave you all an overview, but for those people who just came in, we are being live streamed to YouTube. So we try to start the classes and end the classes on time. If we go over, I can stay in the room to answer questions afterwards. There's another class after this, doing business with the City of Chicago. So if you're interested in that, that one does start at 3:15. We are going to ask that if you have questions as I go through the PowerPoint, that you hold the questions to the end. It's because I might answer the question before I get to the end of the PowerPoint, so you might have your answer before. And then that way I can ask the question on the microphone and answer the question on the microphone. So if you have a question in between, just try to jot it down on a piece of paper, and then I'll answer your questions all at the end. Okay. So this class is basically going to be an overview of the MBE, WBE, BEPD, DBE, and ACDBE certification. So I'm not going to go over a lot for DBE and ACDBE because that's a whole nother class. So DBE and ACDBE is Disadvantaged Business Enterprise, and Airport Concessionaires Disadvantaged Business Enterprise. So that's a federal program. I'll talk about it a little bit, but there's a whole nother hour class just for that. So we're going to talk about the Minority Business Enterprise and the Women Business Enterprise program. But just to give you a little overview of procurement services, we are, the Department of Procurement Services is the contracting authority for the procurement of goods and services for the City of Chicago. We work together as a team and with our customers to guarantee an open, fair, and timely process by establishing, communicating, and enforcing superior business practices. So the City of Chicago buys everything from toilet paper to dog food, professional services, you name it, we probably purchase it, okay? And if we don't, one of our sister agencies do, okay? DPS is committed to providing information, resources, and tools to assist you in your efforts to compete for City of Chicago contracting opportunities. We accept new applications for certification. We accept annual recertification, which is a no-change affidavit, and we'll go into more detail about all of these. And we accept 5-year recertification applications or continuing eligibility affidavits. So we also contract compliance with negotiated contractual MW and DBE participation goals. So basically what that means is most city contracts have a set aside for minorities or for women. Right now I think it went up to 26 and 6. So the minority is usually a set aside for 26% and for women at 6%. If you're a minority woman, it makes sense to get both at the same time. I always tell minority women, don't wait, get the M and then wait till later get the W. You get both at the same time and it's still $250. Okay. We set standards for contract participation for M and Ws as well as DBE and ACDBEs. We assist vendors through our website, and I always recommend people go to the DPS website. It's a wealth of information. That we also have a workshop on that of how to navigate the DPS website. And there's lots of information on the DPS website. So if you ever have a chance or if you have questions, I do, recommend that you visit the DPS website as well. So like I just went over the 5 certification programs, and if you didn't catch all that, BEPD, DBE, and AC, this is on this slide. So what all of that means is on this slide. BEPD is Business Enterprise for People with Disabilities. So if you have a disability, you do have to be certified by the Mayor's Office for People with Disabilities. So you just can't say, turn in an application and say I'm disabled. You have to be able to prove your disability. That application is free. So BEPD is free, but you could be BEPD and M. You could be both, but that's what the BEPD stands for. So the benefits of certification. I get this question all the time because I do events in different communities. It provides visible, once certified, your firm is listed in a directory which is accessible to the general public. So once you are certified, on our website, people can search for an MBE that does landscaping, or an M or W that does graphic design, or somebody who does concrete. that's if we have a contract and it's required to have an MOW, we're sending primes to that list. So as long as your name is on that list, your information will come up. Okay. There are minority, women, and disadvantaged person goals on the City of Chicago projects, as well as projects offered by sister agencies in which a City of Chicago certification is recognized by these agencies and private firms. So that goes back to, like I said, we buy toilet paper, dog food, all this stuff. But I've had someone, talk to me about selling books or children's books, and you might start here, but I tell people don't stop with the city. You want to go to the Park District, you want to go to Chicago Public Schools, and all of these agencies have their own contract. And I know a lot of times people see City of Chicago and they think it's all one agency. It's not. So Chicago Public Schools is an agency. Chicago Park District is an agency, and you have to visit their websites to find out about their procurement process. But the good thing is they accept our certification. So almost any agency you go to will accept our certification. And I do want to remind you that now the city and the county are reciprocal. So if you get the city certification, you can use it on a county contract and vice versa, because the county does MBE, WBE certification as well. Their application is pretty much the same. It's just two different entities doing the same certification. So you can go to the county or you can come over here. I think they have a class, so if you're going to go with the county, I would take their class, but it's the same. So, I mean, a long time ago, people had to pay for both. Now you don't. If you get a letter from Chicago and you want to bid on something from the county, just attach your letter from the city and vice versa, okay? The City of Chicago has a target market program which provides exclusive bidding to certified minority and women-owned business enterprises. This allows certified businesses to take 100% of the pie because there is no subcontractor goals associated with the project. So the most recent thing that I can think of that we did with target market was IT. So there was a target market IT contract, and usually that goes out in a DPS alert. I don't know if Millie talked about that, but I think the cars that were out there, you should sign up for DPS alerts because that's going to give you procurement information every Monday of what's going on. So if it's a target market, it usually goes out in a DPS alert. So does everybody get DPS alerts in hands? No. Oh my goodness. How did you find out about the workshop? You get DPS alerts? Okay, so that's the best way. I think everybody should sign up for DPS alerts. And most of the other agencies have some kind of alert. So if you're a company that's looking for business, you should definitely sign up for the alerts, not just for the city, but for other agencies as well, because that's sending you what's actually on the street right then that's available for you to bid on, okay? The other thing I wanted to say about the benefits of certification is you should be putting your MBE, WBE information on your business cards. If you have a capability statement, which I hint that I think everybody should have a capability statement, especially if you're meeting with primes. You can put that on your capability statement, your business card, your advertising. You can put that you're MBE, WBE certified, which is basically saying that you are a legitimate business. Because why? Because somebody in this department checked out your taxes, checked out your resume, checked out your history to say that you are a credible company. Okay, so you should use it in that way. So do you qualify? Qualifying groups are African Americans, Hispanic, Asian, Native American, women, persons with disabilities, and other individuals who can prove social and economic disadvantage. So I'm only going to hit on the other individuals who can prove it. We do have an affirmative action board that if you're a different nationality and you think that you've had a social disadvantage, you can come to Jamie Reed, who is our CPO, our Chief Procurement Officer, and another board. There's a whole board, and they hear your case of why you think you should be able to be certified. Okay. Your business must be in one of the 6 local counties of Cook, DuPage, Kane, Lake, McHenry, or Will. Okay. DBE and ACDBE can be anywhere in Illinois. okay, in Illinois. The thing is, I'll say with DBE, so you could be in another state with DBE, and you can still get certified in Illinois as long as you have the DBE or the ACDBE in your state. The other thing with the counties, so say you're not in one of these 6 counties, but you're in another county, as long as you have a location in one of these 6 counties, then you can get certified. But that means you have to have 2 offices, 2 up and running and legitimate offices, not that you just, oh, I'm sharing this office with my friend just so you can get the certification. You have to have a legitimate location in one of these 6 counties, okay? And like I said, with the DBE, you can be anywhere in Illinois and you can be out of Illinois as long as you have DBE in the state that you live in, okay? Your company must be 51% owned, controlled, and managed by a minority, woman, person with a disability or socially or economically disadvantaged individual. I always tell people when they talk about this, because a lot of times you might have a husband and wife who own the company. I always say it's okay to say we're 50-50 in marriage. You cannot be 50-50 to be BEPD certified. The minority or the woman has to be 51%. And I was at an event talking to a gentleman. I was like, well, he was like, well, right now my wife and I are 50-50. I said, you got to give her the 1. And he was struggling with that. He did not want to give her that 1 so that they could get the W. So they could get, he was a minority, he could get the M, but if he wanted that W, he had to give his wife that 1%, and he would only have 49. So he was struggling with that. But it's up to you to decide if you want to go for both, because it might be a contract that has a W and an M, but if you don't have the W, then you don't qualify. So you have to remember that if you are going in any type of partnership, that the M or the W, you know, the controlling person has to have 51%. The other thing is with control. So if you have 51%, and I'm just using this as an example for a man and a woman with 51%, the woman has to be able to control that company. She has to know the company inside and out. She has to be able to say, I hire, I fire, I sign contracts, I sign checks. These are all proof that you have control. So if that man stepped away and he wasn't present, the woman or the man, even if it's the other way around, he can sign checks, she can sign checks. So you have to be able to show control, okay? You must not be an established business. An established business just means how much money you make. So gross receipts must not exceed $37 million, averaged over 3 years for non-construction firms. Construction firms are subject to SBA size standards. So depending on what your field is, what the Small Business Administration says that you should make if you're in construction. DBE is not to exceed $22.4 million. And every time I do this class, and the ACDBE is $52 million, who in here doesn't want to have that problem, that you're making $32 million a year, okay? So if you get to $32 million, I'm sure you'd be fine with making that $32 million and be okay if you didn't have to be in the program. But you'd be surprised we get people who might be close to that number, and they're upset because they don't want to be out the program. So even though it's not in this presentation, we do have a graduation program now where we don't kick you out right away. So if you are at 32 million or 33 million, you graduate gradually after 3 years. So the first year you would get 75% of the contract, the third year 50%, and the second year 50%, third year 25%. But most people, you know, your business might go up and down from one year to the next. So they end up staying in the program anyway. But I would love to have that problem, that I make $32 million a year. So it's not, most people don't have a problem with that number, okay? So if you get to that high, you're not usually complaining. So this is wrong. We do not submit, you cannot submit a hard copy. We only accept online applications as of January of this year. So trust me, I will be replacing that soon. We only accept online applications. The electronic application is located at www.mwdbe.com. We also have a class for the online application. So if you're not computer savvy and you want to take the online class before you actually fill out the application, I teach that class too. We do that in an actual computer lab across the street. So if you're like just stuck and you want to come to the class, or you haven't even gotten started, we get people in that class that are like at different levels, because you know, some people are computer savvy, some people aren't. People like really panicked when they found out that they couldn't do the application hard copy anymore. It's all online. You have to scan your documents, save them to your computer, save them to a flash drive so that you can upload them into the application. Okay. I always tell people when I talk about this in the online application class, it's best to have your documents scanned anyway, because what if something happens and you lose all your paperwork? So if you're scanning it, that's a good thing. Okay, so don't panic because you have to scan everything. Either if you don't have someone at home that can scan it, take your documents to Staples and scan it yourself, you know, but you should do that. One thing I want to say, the handouts that I gave were the checklist, the document checklist, and the help text. And I also want to say the application fee for MBE and WBE is $250. But if you are a woman and a minority, as I said, do both at the same time, you only pay $250 once. Okay, it's not $250 for the M and $250 for the W. BEPD is free, DBE is free, and ACDBE is free. Submit all supporting documentation. So the next slide is what we need from you. So I gave you a handout that had the document checklist. I always tell people, before you even start filling out the application, go through the document checklist. Pull your documents together before you even start. If it's something in that document checklist that you don't have, don't leave it blank when you do the application. You have to write something down on a sheet of paper. If you don't have any employees, write it on a sheet of paper. I don't have, whatever your name, the company is, the date, we don't have any employees, and sign it. Because if you leave it blank in the application, it's like you're letting us guess, and you don't want us to guess. Because all we're going to do is send you we call it an RFI, request for information. We're going to say, why didn't you tell us how many employees you had? Or why didn't you send your bank statements? So another example is we asked for 3 years of taxes. If you only been in business 1 year, you send that 1 year, but you say, I've only been in business 1 year. That's why I only sent 1 year. You don't want us to think that you're avoiding sending the other 2. So you have to write it down. I've only been in business 1 year. I always tell people also make sure you have a business bank account. We want to see your business bank account, not your personal bank account. So you should already, if you're an established business, you should have a business bank account. So what we need from you, we need your contact information, the type of certification you are seeking, and we cannot guess. You need to click, that's like, you know, the online is really not going to let you go forward without telling us if you want the M or the W or the D or the ACDBE. Like I said, BEPD requires a Schedule G. That's a document from the Mayor's Office for People with Disabilities that has to be attached to the application because you have to be certified that you are disabled. Okay? You can't just say, yeah, I'm disabled. We need something in writing. We need ownership information. We need employee information. Your facility information. Yes, it's okay if you have a home office. You do not have to have a location. You can have a home office. That is okay. We might ask you for your mortgage statement or your rent contract, your rental contract or something like that, but it is okay to have your office at home. We're going to ask for financial information and license. If you're a company that should have a license, well, everybody should have a business license for the city of Chicago. But if you're a plumber or an electrician, you got to make sure your license is up to date. Your Illinois license should be up to date. If you're incorporated, we should be able to go online and see that you are in good standing. So all that should be checked before you fill out the application, because all it is going to do is slow down your application. I'm going to take your question only because you weren't here in the beginning, because I'm going to take the questions all at the end. Can you hold it? Okay. What else we need from you? Experience. And all this is in that document checklist. Because I'm going to tell you, basically all you're doing is telling your story. We tell people that all the time. If you were a painter for somebody else, that should be on your resume. And it's fine, because now you're using that experience to start your own business. If you're a person that does IT, if you worked for somebody else, that should be on your resume. You should have some kind of education that says that you got a degree in IT or a degree in graphic design. So you should be able to tell that story. Your professional associations, any equipment that you own, your leases, your contract information. If it's a pending contract, we do usually ask for contracts that you have, like viable contracts right now, invoices or purchases. So all this is just proof that you're working your business, okay? That's why we want contract information. So I always tell people, as an example, if you're a painter and you paint in your mother's kitchen, just put it in writing. That's still a contract. Your mom wants you to paint. We don't need to know it's your mom. It's a contract between you and another person. She's paying you $100 to paint her kitchen. Put it in writing. That's still a contract, even though it's your mother. And you might not even take the $100 from her, but it's in writing, and that's a contract, okay? So that's a whole business tip that you should know, period. Any work you do for somebody should be in writing, because you don't want them to get away with not paying you. So, but you want to use that documentation anyway when you do this, because you got to submit some contracts. Now, if you don't have any contracts and you like, I just started a month ago, then your resume should tell your story. Or you should tell a story that I'm negotiating with this person, I'm meeting with this person to build your business up. So we're not going to say if you don't have any contracts that you can't apply. You still can apply, but that means that you should be able to show in some other way that you're working your business, okay? So that's where the invoices come in. If you went out and bought a truck, or you went out and bought some equipment, even though you don't have a contract yet, you're preparing yourself to win a contract. Ownership information. I'm only going to go through this briefly because we cannot tell you what kind of ownership your company should be. I always tell people to start at BACP, which is Business Affairs and Consumer Protection. They're on the 8th floor. We're on the 8th floor, but BACP is on the 8th floor as well. Any type of license you need for your company should start at BACP. If you don't know what license you should have, that's where you want to start. They have a website as well, Business Affairs and Consumer Protection. But you have to decide, and if you're already established, then you already know. But if you want to be a sole proprietor, a general partnership, a limited partnership, incorporated, all of these different business types. But we can't tell you which one you should be. That's my bottom line. And then there's different information that you have to submit depending on which business entity you are. And all that is in the application, and it's going to tell you what information we need from you. So a corporation is treated as an entity completely separate from its shareholders. It allows others to invest in the business without being liable for the debts of that business. Is the firm in good standing? That's where we go in and we check to make sure that your license is in good standing. Do you have articles of incorporation? Do you have a certificate of incorporation? Bylaws, copies of all stock certificates issued, and meeting minutes. So, and that even if you're incorporated and it's just you could say, I had a meeting by myself and I talked about it to myself and I think this is what I want to do. So you can still be incorporated even though you don't have a a big team of people that you meet with to make decisions, because it's still your business and you should be making business plans. You know, you sit down and you sit at your computer and you say, well, by next month I want to be making $10,000. Well, I want to make $50,000. So this is my plan. So those would be your minutes. So even if it's just you or if it's you and your business partner. Limited liability corporation, partnerships that have a managing member or partner. So all of those are things that you have to decide on. And I strongly stress starting at BACP if you're a new company. If you're not a new company, you already know what kind of business you are. A supplier. A supplier must be a regular dealer, which is a firm that owns, operates, or maintains a store, warehouse, or other establishment in which materials, supplies, articles, or equipment are bought, kept in stock, and regularly sold or leased to the public in the usual course of business. A distributor. Firms operating as a distributor are identified as having a direct relationship with the manufacturer to distribute its goods and products within a specified territory or region. The goods and/or products are not available or sold to the general public. And I'm going over these two because we get these questions when certification comes up, and the biggest one is brokers who we do not certify. So firms acting as a broker are not eligible for certification as an M or a W. A person or entity that fills orders by purchasing or receiving supplies from a third-party supplier rather than out of its own existing inventory and provides no substantial service other than acting as a conduit between his or her supplier and his or her customer is a broker. So basically, if you're ordering 10,000 pens for CPS, but you don't house those pens, you do not have a warehouse, no one can come and look at those pens to make sure they work, then you're a broker. Because you're buying the pens from ABC Company or ABC Pens and having ABC Pens just send them to CPS. So you're a broker. And then that's an issue for us because the person buying it doesn't know if it's a good service or it's a good product. So we don't certify brokers, okay? After the applications are submitted, the process can take approximately, is that 60 to 90? Let's change that to 90 to 120. And that's after we receive all documents. So even though you submit your document and you believe you submitted all the application and all your documents, you still might get an RFI, which is a request for information. So whatever you submitted, maybe somebody looked at it and said, this is not enough. I want something else. I need more. So I'm going to tell you right now, you're going to get an RFI. Just submit your information, but you're going to get an RFI from somebody in our office. And we do have a contracting office that does audits for us named Ringo. You're going to get an RFI. I have to tell people, because people call all the time and say, well, I submitted it. If they ask you for it, just submit it, because you're wasting time arguing that says you submitted it. The more time you take saying, why do I have to do it again, that's more time that it takes your application to get approved. Just send it. We give, I think, 15 days notice, and then if you don't send it in those 15 days, we give 10 more days, so that's 25 days to get the information in. And if you still need more time, even after that, if you call, as long as we know that you're working on it, then we'll keep your application open. We will not keep your application open forever. So if it goes way too long, and I'm not even going to give a number of days, your application can be closed. We do not give the $250 back, and it's a possibility you would have to start all over again. So don't get upset if somebody asks you for more information. Just send it. You should have it, because you already scanned everything. But if that isn't what they're looking for, then whoever contacts you, they're going to tell you exactly what they want, okay? Your application is checked to make sure we have all documentation. Documents are thoroughly audited. You may receive a site visit. If approved, your certification is valid for 5 years. Everyone has to do a no change affidavit. Okay, it takes like 10 minutes to do a no change affidavit, and it's online as well. So every year you have to do a no change affidavit. When you get certified, you're going to receive a letter. You're only going to get one letter. You'll get a letter every 5 years. We do not send a letter every year. So on your letter, it's going to have 4 dates of when your no change affidavit is due, and the 5th date is when your recertification is due, and you actually have to pay the $250 again. So you do have to pay $250 every 5 years, and submit documents again, because your company could have changed in those 5 years. The ownership could have changed. What you provide for services could have changed. So in those 5 years, you will have to submit documents. When you do your no change affidavit, the main things we want to know is, did the ownership change? Did your location change? Did anything major in your company happen in that 1 year? Okay. If you move and your no change is not due, you might as well just tell us then. You know, we need to know if your address changed. If you don't tell us, at least tell us when you do your no change affidavit. The other thing is, we're not going to send you a notice to tell you that your no change affidavit is due. So we tell people, keep up with your letter. Everybody's phone friendly now. Put an anniversary reminder in your phone or something saying that your no change affidavit is due December 25th every year, so that you can get it done. And we always ask people to try to submit it 60 days before it's actually due, so that it's done by the time of your date. Okay. If for some reason we have not completed the audit of your documents for a no change affidavit or a recert, and only for a recert, you can ask for an extension letter. So say you're on a contract and your certification is going to end October 1st. You submitted your no change affidavit, but then October 1st rolls around and our office has not completed your no change affidavit. You can ask for an extension, because if you're on somebody's contract as a sub, they want to know that your certification is still valid. But that's up to you to call our office and ask for an extension letter. And if it goes another 30 days, we'll give you another extension letter. People do it because if they're on a contract, their certification has to be valid. Okay, so that's important, but it's important for the vendor to remember, because we're not going to remind you. Okay. Expedited process. So we recognize the Chicago Minority Supplier Development Council certification. Basically, this company certifies companies, but I'm going to tell you, they charge you, and then we charge you. So all it's supposed to do is speed up your certification when you come to us. So if you go to them, they check all your documents, they audit everything, they give you a certificate. That certificate is not good on any contracts. You bring that certificate to us, you pay the $250, and your application will sort of rise to the top and only take 30 to 60 days. But that means you paid CMSDC and you still have to pay us. It's just an option. I tell people you can come to this class and get all the information you need. Basically, what they're doing is helping you do your application. So and I'm going to tell you what you can do later instead of doing this, because you still have to pay them, and then you still have to pay us. But I have to tell you about it, because it'll make your application process go a little faster. Maintaining certification, and we just went over this. All vendors must submit an annual no change affidavit. You must notify the Certification and Compliance Division regarding organizational changes, business name changes, ownership changes within 10 business days of the change. All vendors must recertify after 5 years. Expansion of services. So submit your request on company letterhead. Basically, an expansion is, say this year you get your certification as a painter, and then next year you decide you want to add drywall. That's NAICS codes, and I'm going to talk about that a little bit more at the end as well. So when you're getting certified, you have to decide what you want to be certified in. What do you do? So you have to go and find out what your NAICS code is. But for an expansion, if you're a painter and you decide you want to do drywall, all you have to do is submit to us on letterhead, include your added categories for NAICS codes, and then you have to prove to us that you can do that work. So if you're a painter and you already prove you're a painter, but you need to prove you can do drywall, if you be like, oh, I should have put that in, then you write to us and tell us why you should have this code. I just had an application where it was a trucking company, but she had just purchased a sweeper, a truck that's a sweeper. So she added a code to her certification. So she had trucking, but she added a sweeper. So she already had the proof because she bought a truck. So she submitted her invoices that she bought this big sweeper truck, and she already had a contract. So she was doing sweeper work for a company, like doing the parking lots. So her code was, of course, approved because she bought the equipment, she got the contract, she's doing the work. So that's what, if you want an expansion, you have to be able to prove that you can expand into this other code, okay? So you can submit the required licenses, copies of future or present contracts, and any insurance that you might need for that code. So like I talked about earlier, I always tell people, do not stop with the City of Chicago. Whatever your business is, these are our sister agencies, and they are listed on our website. So if you go to cityofchicago.org/procurement, on the right-hand side, I believe all of these are listed. I'm not sure if all of them are listed, but if you click on it on our website, it'll take you to their website. We do not do their procurement. Sometimes people get confused, like with CTA, because it's Chicago Transit Authority. We don't do theirs. We don't do the public schools. We don't do the Park District. So you have to go to their websites to find out what their procurement and what their contract possibilities are. And how do they do it? They probably have a class just like this, or the next class doing business with the city, or doing business with the Park District, or doing business with the Water Reclamation District. I think a lot of times, too, people forget about the colleges. University of Chicago, all these colleges have diversity programs. But people don't always go to their websites to find out what's available for them to bid on. So you have to remember, you have to do all your research, find everybody, and they all accept the city's certification, okay? The other thing about certification is, if the contract is small enough, you do not need the certification. MBE, WBE certification is to be a subcontractor. So if it's a contract that's only $10,000, and you say, I can handle a $10,000 contract by myself, you don't need certification. But if it's a $10 million contract, and you're like, I'm a one-person business, I can't do a $10 million contract, then you need to find the prime that's going to bid on it so that you can be his sub as an MRW, okay? I always tell people, especially if they're in the construction industry, there's usually, for us, there's a meeting in this room for pre-bid meetings. Who is in the pre-bid meeting? The people who are going to bid on that contract. So if you're a sub, it's a good thing for you to be in the pre-bid meeting while they're answering they're asking questions. So it's a good chance that those people are going to bid on something. So what do? You bring your business card, you bring your capability statements, and you pass them out. Your goal is to get a meeting, because nobody's going to hire a sub that they don't know. So you need a face-to-face meeting. But you need a business card, you need a capability statement, you need to get in front of the prime. But if it's a small enough contract, you don't have to have certification, because then you are the prime, okay? And I talked long enough for everybody to write these numbers down if you want them. But if you don't want them, you can find this on our website. It's on the right-hand side, the names, and if you click on it, it's going to take you directly to their website. And I'll tell you another secret too, if you're not on our website. If you do www.Chicago Public Schools, any of these places, if you just do /procurement, their procurement will come up. Most of them, as long as you put procurement at the end, you'll find their site for procurement, for contracts, okay?
And so just to be clear, you said that all of those organizations, once you get the certification in the city.
Yes, yes. So avoid the top 10 reasons applications are denied. Unsubstantiated or questionable ownership or control. We see this all the time. If somebody else is in that company, sometimes it's more when it's a W, and there's a man around, and that man is, oh, he's just my partner. He's only 48%, but he's doing most of the work. That's questionable to us, because then we're trying to figure out who's really in control. Is that woman really, really in control? So then we're going to start asking more questions and more questions and more questions. So you have to be in control of your company. Unclear description of critical functions and who is responsible, same thing. If it's somebody else, even like if you're a company and you're sharing your office with another company that's sort of the same as yours, we might be like, is that company really the one in control of your company? So you want to be careful with those blended offices, because we're going to want to know why you're in an office with another company that's just like your company. Company cannot substantiate where startup funds and expansion capital came from. So this comes from being a front, okay? So if you started an architectural firm and all of a sudden you have an office that might be, if we did a site visit, it looked like it was worth $100,000. So we're like, okay, where did the $100,000 come from? Oh, you know, I just had it saved. Okay, well, even if you had it saved, we're going to ask for bank statements to show that that money was sitting somewhere for 6 months or a year or 12 months. The issue is if you're an M or a W, we don't want a non-minority or not a woman that's not a minority giving you $100,000, because then they sort of control you, because they gave you that $100,000. And then they're going to be like, oh, well, I want you to do this. Oh, I want you to do that. And I think you should do this. So they're sort of controlling you. So you have to be able to prove where you got the money, okay? Even if it's a gift from your mother, we might ask your mother, where did you get the money? We might want to see her bank statements, okay? You have to be able to explain where your money came. Even if it's a small company and you only used $100. Just say I used $100. I went and bought some Xerox paper and a Xerox machine or something. We want to see that. Outside secondary employment takes the majority of the MBE, WBE's time each day. Just had a problem with this on a no change affidavit. So if you own your business, but you say, I have a job at CTA that I work at from 9 to 5. How are you spending time on your company if you're working at CTA from 9 to 5? We have a problem with that. You're going to have to somehow prove that you're spending enough time on your own business. And we know that sometimes startups still have to work somewhere else to get their own business started, but you have to explain what you're doing from 6 to 12 o'clock at night to get your own business started. So you might stay up from 6 o'clock p.m. to 12 or 1 o'clock if it's important to you to get your business started. Or maybe you're a cleaning service that only has to clean offices at night. So your business is the nighttime, but you still have to tell us about the other job as well. The company is not located in one of the 6 county regions, so we already talked about that. You have to be in one of the 6 county regions to be certified. So these reasons, I think we already went over. Point of contact did not respond to requests for information in a timely manner. If we ask you for it, just send it in. Inconsistencies with the applicant firm name among various documents. So if you're doing a DBA, doing business as, that should show through the whole application. Or, you know, if you're incorporated and you want your name to be listed incorporated, it should look like that in the application. Problems with contracts, missing, incomplete, not signed, or executed by a qualifying owner, or have no corresponding proof of payments, no invoices. So you want your contracts to be written properly, make sure you send them in. If you're a company, you can send us the invoices that you sent to whoever it is that you are doing business with. If they paid you, you can send us the canceled check saying that they paid you. This is all proof. Required documents are not attached, or no explanation is given as to why the documents are not available. I went through this in the beginning. If you don't have something, tell us. Put it in writing why you did not send it, because you don't want us to guess. 3 years of tax returns were not submitted, signed. That's the biggest thing, signed. So nowadays, most of us send everything electronically, but when you send it to us, just sign it. It could be it's a copy, but just sign it and then send it to us. Don't send us the electronic one that you sent to the IRS without the signature on it. Just sign it. It's fine. Just sign it. Where to go for help? So what I want to say about help, use assist agencies. So the city of Chicago has plenty of chambers of commerce. Most of the chambers of commerce have some dealing with us or with the city of Chicago. So depending on where you live in the city, there's a chamber of commerce somewhere near you. I think in our buying plan, we have the list of assist agencies. You should definitely, if you need help, if you don't want to come here, go to your assist agency or your chamber of commerce. I always try to tell people to start when they're still small. So is everybody in here already established business? If you already have a business, raise your hand. Okay. So if you don't have a business and you're about to start a business, or if you've only been in the business for a little while, that's the time. Why? Because you don't have as much paper. So if you're a business, been in business 20 years, you got a lot of paper. And you probably got to find it. So if you just started, you don't have a lot of paper. That's the time to do it. I would say maybe wait 6 months or wait till you have a contract or something, just something to show that you're doing it. But it's good, you know, because in the beginning we used to tell people they had to wait a year or 2 years. Now, I would say if you just started 6 months, do it now while you don't have so much paper to find and you're still excited about the company. So you're still excited, you're still gung-ho. So just go ahead and fill out the application and tell your story. So if you started working with another company 5 years ago, tell us your story. Think about your NAICS codes. So some people have 10, 15 NAICS codes. Some people only have one. And the NAICS code is what you do. If you're an accountant, there's a code for accounting. If you're a graphic designer, there's a code for graphic design. NAICS is NAICS. And you can look that up, Google it, and then it'll take you to the page. If you don't know what code you want, all you do is put your description in. So if you're a landscaper, you put in landscaping, it might be 50 codes for landscaping. Why? Because maybe you only do outside landscaping. Maybe you do inside landscaping. Maybe you do landscaping with concrete. Because, you know, in the city, we have all those planners. But you might be a landscaper, but you don't know how to do that concrete around it. So you need to say, I can do the concrete and I can do the plants. Or can you only do plants? So you have to pick your NAICS codes. We are not going to do that for you. Okay, so when you submit your application, you have to know how many NAICS codes and which NAICS codes you want. Call our office for help. We are 744-4900. There's always a certification officer to answer a question. Like I said, use your area assist agencies. And I do recommend assist agencies a lot. There are several that are like really, really good at what they do. And if you didn't pick up a buying plan, we need more, but the assist agencies, and they're also on our website. So if you don't have a buying plan, they're on our website. So questions? Anybody write down a question? Yes.
I'll ask you.
Oh, sorry. When you add the WEPD to the admin fee, and if I put them both together, does it take longer?
No.
No?
No. Because the M and the W is, with the W, basically all you're doing is submitting something saying, I'm a girl. but I'm a girl that's in control. Because if you have to, you're going to submit your driver's license, your birth certificate saying you're a woman, but then the woman has to prove control. It doesn't take longer. No, 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 no.
And then the next one is, there was a webinar earlier today on the application, for the e-application. Is that the same as the class that you did?
The e-application or the online
The
application?
online application?
Yeah, I do recommend, so if you go to the www.chicago.mwdbe.com, they have webinars, and the webinars are really good. The only thing is you're not seeing our site. So the system is called B2G now that houses the online application. So they have a webinar, and I do recommend the webinars, but you're not seeing our application. So I think the last time I actually looked at it was Texas or something. So a lot of different states do use B2G now. So when you look at it, it's not ours, but it is a good tool. It is.
You had mentioned a capability statement. What is that?
So, and I talk about capability statements in your business is certified now what? It's basically just what you do. And I tell people just Google capability statement, because depending on what you do, it could be one page, it could be a book. I've seen some. And I tell people whenever you're going out to network, you should have a capability statement, not just a business card, because it's telling people what you do. It could be a one-pager, your name, your contact information, and then what do you do? I'm a realtor. I sell residential. I sell commercial. I sell industrial property. What do you do? Put pictures on it. Put it on glossy paper. Go to Staples and get some pretty paper and print it out in color, because a lot of times you have a business card, and I do a lot of events, and I get cards, and I look at the card, and I cannot tell what that person does. Just because you're a Smith, sure. Just because you're Smith Contracting does not tell me what Smith Contracting can do. A capability statement is saying, you can even say what contracts you have, who I've worked with, what I do. Put some pretty pictures on there. What do you do? What do you do?
Oh, you're asking?
Yeah.
I run a painting company. I run painters.
Paint, okay. So you could show your paint jobs. Whatever you painted, the pictures could be on your capability statement. So if you don't have a lot of business, it could be a one-pager. If you've done a lot, it could be a book that people can open up and see your pictures of what you do. If you do drywall, nowadays people are painting with fancy stripes in the paint and wallpaper and paint. People want to see that because they want to know what you can do. So that's what a capability statement. You can Google it to get examples and take it to Staples, and they'll print it for you. So I always tell people to have it. We do events, and all of these sister agencies do events, but it helps to have a capability statement when you go out to meet with somebody. A card is usually not enough. A business card is not enough.
Another question.
You said that there was,
We were talking about the ACP on the 8th floor.
Mm-hmm.
And that a license is needed.
Yes, if you're working in the city, you definitely have to have a city business license. But depending on what your profession is, they'll tell you what licenses you have to have.
are there additional costs to that?
Yes. But I think Mary Manuel just recently tried to bring it down of how many licenses you have to have. So I guess before it was a lot of different licenses, depending on what you do. So if you do painting, I don't know which license you would need. Well, compared to somebody who's an electrician, might need a totally different type of license, because, if you do an electrical job wrong, you could burn somebody's house down. So you go to BACP, you tell them what you do, and they tell you what license you need. And then when you're done, you can pass it up to her.
I just have a question. You said if you're a startup company, it's best to get your contract 6 months in? Is that what you
Well, if you're a startup, before you try to get certified, you don't have to have a contract. I just say if you can get one, try to get one before you do the certification. What do you do? Trucking. So,
There's companies that hire people,
mhm,
but with the hiring
mhm.
period. So I was trying to get into some of those.
Yeah, so you don't have to have the contracts. That's why I said you could write that you're negotiating a contract or you're working towards a contract. Or you bought all these trucks. You have a lot, you have trucks, you have drivers. That's proof right there that you could do the job even though you don't have the contract yet.
Do I need to give you the person's information who I'm working with?
It helps.
Okay.
We don't want you to make up anything.
My question is, you said with the paperwork with the incorporation, you need paperwork. Is the ID good enough, or do you need the actual paperwork you want for Springfield?
A copy from Springfield.
Okay, and then, you also said something about BEPDs where you come with your capability statement. It's the name of your business card.
Mhm.
How do you find out about it?
So pre-bid meetings show up on our bid opportunity list. Every Monday, are you signed up for DPS alerts? There's a card on the table for DPS alerts. So every Monday, we send out a bid opportunity list. Those are all the contracts that are on the street right now and are available to bid on. If it's something with construction and that contract is going out to bid, in the bid opportunity list, it'll say pre-bid meeting on this date. And it's usually in this room. So, for example, if they're about to tear up LaSalle Street and put planters down the middle, do we have planters? I think we already do have planters, don't we, on LaSalle Street. So if they were going to tear them all up and put some new ones down, they might have a pre-bid meeting to tell primes what they're looking for. So maybe they're down here now, but they're going to put some up that's this high. So then they're going to talk about, well, this is the difference, this is how high, this is how thick. So they might be talking to the primes about what it is you have to do. It has to be this concrete. It has to be this durable, and So they're gonna give all those details in the pre-bid meeting. But say you sell concrete, you don't put concrete down. You might just sell concrete. So you want to come to the pre-bid meeting, or you might be the person that sells plants, because they still got to put the plants in the potter. So you come to the pre-bid meeting so you can talk to the primes to find out if you can do something for them. And that's why I say that's where the capability statement comes, and you don't want to stop in that room. You want to say, can I get a meeting with you at your office? You don't want to just stop in the room, because that don't mean that you're going to get anything out of it.
Another question.
As far as submitting tax returns, if you have just formed a company within the last year, you obviously have not filed any taxes as of yet. Would we have to give like our personal income taxes?
Yes.
then? Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
No other questions? We did really good. We're up to 2 minutes, because the next workshop is about to start in a few minutes. Yes.
If you started a company and you have been working like another side job, you've been working at, but you started your company, you haven't done a business, if you decided to really start to work that business, if you don't have any, like what you said about
Taxes? Right. Right.
So just give my personal taxes.
You would have to give your personal taxes. I would say if you're working another business, though, you would have to really show.
I had a job. I hadn't worked.
No, even if you have a job somewhere else, but you're trying to certify a company, you would have to really show what you're doing to get that business off the ground. Yeah.
I have one more question. So my partner and I, we registered our company in Michigan, just for logistics. But I live here in Illinois. Can I still register here for a minority?
So the business is in Michigan?
We certified over there.
Okay.
But I am here, and I am the majority owner.
So it's the same company.
Yeah.
He's MBE certified in
No.
Michigan?
No. We just registered the business in Michigan. That's it. But I live here. Weird, I know.
So do you have an office here
Yes.
with the same name?
Yeah.
Yeah, as long as you're here with the office.
Yeah.
Yes.
All right.
Yes.
That's easy.